Really, it doesn't. You don't have to, because once there's tuma, it's hutra. Now, Amrav Sheshes, who said that tuma is only dechuya, meno amin Allah. Where is my proof? The Tanya. Kohen was doing the avoida and being makriv the mincha sa'omer, which is a korban sibur. V'nitma biyado, and it became tomei. The mincha became tomei. Oimer, he should admit that he became tomei. Umevin acheres tachteha, and therefore they let them bring another mincha. Now, the imein sham elahi, let's say there was no other mincha sa'omer, there was a shortage of barley. So, oimrim lo, heavy pikeach u'shesok, be smart and don't announce that you're tummy, because it's permitted anyways. So, Ketani Mias, whatever you want to learn, it says, Oimer, he announces that he's tummy, and bring another. So, Rav Sheshes wants to say, it's a proof to me that it's, you don't necessarily offer it in the state of Tumah. You find a Tahor one. So, and therefore this is problematic to Rav Nachman, who says Korbanite Tzibur are Hutra B'Tzibur. On Rav Nachman, Moidin Eichadik Shiraim Lachila. Even I will admit, see, a Korban Mincha has to be eaten. Now, therefore, it's also to eat a Korban that's Tameh, even though, for example, it's permitted to offer, right? You can be makriv korbanis, but to eat it you can. So even he admits that in that case they would try to find another, and if it's tameh, they would just offer it and nobody would eat it. So Meitzvi, I'll ask you a kash al Rav Nachman, who says Tumas Hutra B'Tzibur. Hayamakriv minchas porim ve'elim uchvasim. You have menachos, libations are brought, different shiurim, but they're brought whether it's a par, whether it's an aisle, whether it's a keves. And it became tomei, the mincha became tomei. Oimer, the halacha is he admits to it. Umevin acheres tachteh, and they bring another mincha. The imein sham elahi, if that's the only mincha, oimrim lo, they say have pikech u'shesok, be quiet, offer it, but you don't have to make any announcements here. My love, porim elim uchvasim dechag. Now, the havamina here is these are the parim, the elim uchvasim that are brought on yontif, which is a korban sibur. So even though it's a korban sibur, you go ahead and look for another Torah one. So it's not hutra bit sibur. So this is a kasha Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman, this is not por ve'elim uchvasim dechag. These are special korbanos. Porim, we're talking about a parsha avodah zorah. This is when the korban sibur brings a par if they did avodah zorah b'shogeg. But the problem is the korban brought for avodah zorah is not brought on a specific date. Avagav the tzibur keven to l'kvil izman madrinon. There is no time limit at which, you can't bring this korban anymore. Well, so since you could bring a korban on another date, so you can wait and look around until you get a Torah Dika Mincha. Elim is also not talking about Elim of Chad. Here we're talking about the Isle of Aaron who offers it on Yom Kippur, where the Afal Gab the Kviyel Ezman, that is an example where it is tied to time, but Kivan de Yochidu Madrina, but it's not a Korban Sibor. This is a Korban that's brought by Aaron HaKohen himself. So it's considered like a Korban Yochid. And Korban Yochid is not Hutra B'Tzibur. And Kvasim, when it says Kvasim, you look for another mincha. We're talking about Bekeves Habayim HaOimer, which again we had a problem because the Oimer is actually eaten. And if it becomes tummy, you can't eat it. So there's a special reason to go look for a Torah Dika one. Dika Shiraim Lachil. Okay, Meisvei, I'll ask you another kasha Again, on Rav Nachman, who says Tumas Hutra B'Tzibur, Dam Shenitma. You did shchita of a korban. You collected the dam in a kos. Now you have to do zrika of the dam on the mizbeach, and it became tamei. So lechatchila, you shouldn't have thrown it, but you threw it anyways b'shogeg, or you threw it zraka. So it depends. B'shogeg, let's say you didn't know it was tamei, or you thought it was permitted to do it, or whatever. You're not a hurtza. So the korban is accepted. B'mezid lo hurtza. If you did it b'mezid, it's not. Now, normally the Kohen Gadol wore the tzitz on his forehead, and the tzitz was meratzeh, allowed the to be acceptable various korbanos betuma that got thrown. So how come b'mezid lo hurtza? Rashi says kansu rabbanon. They made a knas shelo yehi basar nechal, because otherwise you would eat the meat. So here the meat should not be eaten. But aval baili miun is kapru. Delo nesi chulun lazara. The bailim we say had kapor with this korban that they brought, because we don't want it to say lemafrei was chulun lazara. Really midoraisa, it's okay because the tzitz worked. Well, we see.
Let me ask you, the Kohen Gadol stood with in the Azora the whole time, and he's wearing his tzitz.
That's great. Walter is so hang on. Tonight we're going to learn how the tzitz functioned. Did it have to be on his forehead all the time? Was the Kohen Gadol there all the time? We'll see. It's a very good question. So we're going to learn that tonight. Mirza Hashem. So we have a kasha on Rav Nachman. It's not hutter, even though these are korbanei tzibur. So kitane de yochid. Yeah, because we're not talking about korbanei tzibur. By korbanei tzibur, we don't need the tzitz because tumas hutra b'tzibur. But by korban yochid, if the korban, the blood got tamei and was thrown, the tzitz is meratzeh. Toshma al ma tzitz meratzeh. What does the tzitz? Because it says v'nosa Aaron es avon hakodashim. It says that Aaron bears the sin of the kodshim. That therefore the bailim should get ritzui. Matzitz meratzeh al adam, blood, al basar, meat, val chaylev shenitma. So, for example, by an ola, you offer the basar and the chaylev. So, let's say they became tamei. So the din is lechatchila, you shouldn't throw them on the mizbeach. But b'shogeg, if you threw it, the tzitz is meratzeh for those korbanos. And however, this price says, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid. So you see that tzitz works no matter what. That's why Rashi told us on the previous blot that we read that it's really a knas midrabanan. Really midoraisa, it's okay. That the tzitz works bein b'oris, bein b'ratz, and bein b'yachid, bein b'tzibur. Now, why do you need it? Isak gedayt chetuma heter b'tzibur. Why did I have to be told bein b'yachid, bein b'tzibur? You need the tzitz. According to Rav Nachman, tumah is hutra b'tzibur. Lamed li ritzui. What kind of ritzui do you need with the tzitz? Good kash on Rav Nachman. Armach Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman is just, this price is just talking, when is the tzitz needed? On korbanei yochid. It says, bein b'yochid, bein b'tzibur. It's not needed for the tzibur, because tzibur is hutra b'tzibur. But the various ones b'yochid, you do need the tzitz. Iboy sema, that afilu tema b'tzibur. You could say it's going even on tzibur. B'hanech dulo kvilas man, like we learned, that if you have a korban tzibur that's not, has to be done on a certain date, like we said, the paravodah zara, which doesn't have to be brought on a certain date. So there as well, you need ritzui, because there is no din of tumah utra b'tzibur if it's not kavu and zman. Meisvei, let's do another kasha. It says v'nosa Aaron es avon hakodashim. It says Aaron will bear the sin of the kodshim, which we said is tumah. What kind of oven are we talking about? Im avon pigul. Remember, pigul is when the Kohen has in mind when he shechts to eat of the korban tomorrow, or when he does zrika to eat of the korban tomorrow. Chutz l'zmanu. So the din is you cannot, if you eat a kazayas of such an animal that became pigul, you're chayiv kares. Now there by Pigel it says Harikva Nemar lo yaratze. It says Pigel lo yaratze. Pigel cannot be accepted. Im ova noisar. Noisar is kodshim that were left over till the next morning. It's beyond its time. So there as well, if you eat kazayis of noisar, you get kares. And Harikva Nemar lo yechoshev. Noisar also cannot be resurrected. So what kind of ovoin is Aaron HaKohen bearing? It's a tuma that is related to korbanei tzibur that becomes permitted. The kashal Rav Sheshes. So finally, we have a kashal Rav Sheshes who said it was dechuya only. Here, it seems to be a complete blanket eter, and Rav Sheshes can't get out of it. So Rav Sheshes will answer. You know what tanoi? And it's a machlokes tanoim whether it's hutra b'tzibur or dechuya b'tzibur. And I hold like the Tanoim that hold it to Chuya. Where do we see it's a machlokes Tanoim? The Tanya. Tzitz, which was that metal head plate, it said Kodesh LaHashem written on it or engraved on it. Bein sheyeshnu al mitzcho, bein she'eino al mitzcho. Maratza di Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says the Kohen Gadol doesn't have to be wearing it. The presence of the tzitz as a kli, whether it's on his forehead or not, it's maratza. The Reb Shimon. Reb Yehuda Omer, oideu al mitzcho maratza. If the tzitz is on the head of the Kohen Gadol, it's maratza. Eino de al mitzcho eino maratza. If it's not on his head, it's not maratza. Amar Reb Shimon. So Reb Shimon says, what do you mean? Kohen Gadol b'yom kippur miyochiach. I will show that I'm correct, that it works whether or not the Kohen Gadol is wearing it or not. Why? She'eino de al mitzcho maratza. The Kohen Gadol didn't wear, remember there were times in Yom Kippur where he wore only the 4 big day lavon. He didn't wear his 8 big day kahuna, including the tzitz. So, and yet we know that the tzitz was operating on Yom Kippur to be maratza for tuma that might have occurred to one of the korbanos. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Hanach lekohen gadol b'yom kippur shetuma hutra lo b'tzibur. You don't have to worry. The Rabbi Yehuda says on Yom Kippur, that's not a kasha to me, because the avodos of Yom Kippur are korbanei tzibur, and tuma is hutra b'tzibur. So you see very clearly that you have a machloikas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda holds tuma hutra b'tzibur, and Rabbi Shimon holds it's dechuya b'tzibur, and therefore you need and that's Rav Sheshes who holds like Rabbi Yehuda, right? Mechlad Rabbi Shimon sover tuma dechuya b'tzibur. So Rabbi Shimon holds it's only dechuya, and you need the tzitz being active on the Kohen Gadol's head. So there's machlokes. Rav Sheshes Rav Nachman their machlokes is an old machlokes. Machlokes Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yehuda. And the baraisa that we brought is like Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Abaye. Benishbar hatzitz. Now, let's say the tzitz is broken. Kulam aloy pligid loy maratza. A broken tzitz doesn't work. Ki pligid detali besichta. Let's say it's hanging, not on his forehead, but it's on a peg. You know, it's in his wardrobe. It's hanging on a wall, like where you hang your ties. Rabbi Yehuda Sover Ametzach v'nosa. The pasuk says, "V'haya al metzach Aaron, v'nasa Aaron esavon hakodashim," which seems to connect it sits being on the forehead of the Kohen Gadol with its ability to be maratza. Rabbi Shimon Sover Tamid l'ratzon lifnei Hashem. He emphasizes on the last part of that pasuk. V'haya al mitzchot tamid l'ratzon lahem lifnei Hashem. That it says l'chora, the pasuk seems to say that the tzitz has to be on his meitzach forever. But he learns from there, my tamid, What do you mean it's got to be there forever? What do you mean the Kohen Gadol has to be wearing it all the time? What do you mean mishkal? That can't be. Doesn't the Kohen have to go to the bathroom? He's got to take it off then. And he falls asleep. He can't wear the tzitz then. Elatomid meratzahu. The word tamid there, tamid l'ratzav Hashem, means it's meratza no matter what, whether it's on his forehead or not meratza, but it's got to be intact, can't be broken. Oh, so what does Rabbi Yehuda do with that? Rabbi Yehuda nami haksiv tamid means ahu tamid shlo yasich daitu mimenu. That means he cannot have hesach hadas. While it's on his forehead, he's going to remember it. When a person wears his tefillin, he should be touching his tefillin all the time. So there shouldn't be hesach hadas from the tefillin. We learn it from the tzitz. We'll learn that tomorrow. Excuse me. Tomorrow we don't have to learn. Tomorrow we don't have to learn the daf because we did it. We did 2 blot tonight. So tomorrow night we will learn.